This is a staple of many Black women's hair care, but is it time to stop using it? A recent study published by Consumer Reports finds that cancer-causing ingredients as well as lead is present in several popular brands of synthetic hair. So Dr. Imahiyerobo-Ip, tell us, what exactly is in these products?
So synthetic hair is made of an ingredient called kanekalon. And kanekalon, interestingly enough, is made by one company called Kaneka. And what this study found, it studied 10 different packs of hair from different companies. And as you mentioned, it found really harmful ingredients in addition to the synthetic material. So one of them was lead. And in some of the packs, it had over 600 times the amount of lead that's allowable by certain states like California and Massachusetts.
Wow.
They also found an ingredient called benzene. Now, benzene is a highly reactive ingredient. It's actually discouraged that we use it in labs, and benzene has been linked to leukemia and lymphoma. The other thing it found was methyl chloride. See, these are just things we can't even pronounce.
Exactly.
So methyl chloride is linked to lung cancer and liver cancer. So just a lot of really harmful ingredients.
Wow. So needless to say, this is very concerning. To the point, one of my friends texted me over the weekend and was like, so what are we doing about our braids, right? Point blank, because like as I mentioned, we all got a pack or two of hair, many of us at least, lying around. And Shellee and Zina, I know that you see this a lot in your salons. How are you reacting to this news?
As Shellee said earlier, with the Crown Act coming, that opened up the door.
Yes, it did.
You know, and then we're looking at it, the next generation, the younger girls are looking at it. So it's something that we have to pay attention to because everybody wants to have the long hair. That's what we came up with, either the long braids or the long hair. It was the look, you know, so what the young girls see is what we're gonna really have to start promoting, especially in our salons, in your business. Because I always say it's the next generations that are gonna come into us. And with me meeting you, Dr. Ip, coming to your office, I had the extensions. You know, and I had some situations, and with meeting you, you didn't tell me what to do. You suggested things that would work for me. No, I never thought I would cut my hair off like this.
I love it.
You know, but from your encouragement, between me doing my, you know, background check and from you adding to it, it made me realize it was time to go back to the natural hair. I'm not saying don't get relaxers. Because you have to do what's best for you, but you encourage the little girls and the young ladies like me to do what's best for our hair.
And it's interesting you mentioned this because there is a class action lawsuit pending from consumers who have purchased chemical hair relaxers and said the makers of these relaxers didn't note that there were endocrine disrupting agents in these that were indeed harmful. And so it really just is kind of like, what are we supposed to do with our hair at this point, right? Because for many people, braids have been a way to not only get that hang time, a couple inches, right? But also to just kind of set it and forget it and put your hair in a so-called protective style, right, Shellee? But is there any safe way to do this?
Well, like you said, they have different levels of like the VOC and the VOR inside of them. But I think the less is better, but I think they need to stop labeling exactly what are in these synthetic brands of hair. Without synthetic hair, like half the people are not going to feel comfortable with styles or braids, you know, like you said, hang time. We love that extra length, but, you know, with all the chemicals in it being brought out now, it's kind of like scary.
And there are human hair extensions, right? We know this. There are plant-based hair extensions, but I got to tell you, a pack of this, for instance, is about $5 to $10 a pack. That plant-based hair, $36 a pack, and sometimes you often need more than one. So what do you say to people who still want to get those extensions, but may not be able to access or afford the more expensive and arguably safer ones?
I mean, one of the things that I'm trying to emphasize in my practice where I'm seeing a ton of hair loss is that hair health is part of our overall body health. You know, I personally lost one of my closest cousins to uterine cancer. And as I was thinking about this and researching this, one of the things that I realized is that, you know, she was 59 when she passed away, but I never saw her without braids, right? And so I started to think about how much could that have contributed? Otherwise, she was a vegetarian, she lived a very active lifestyle, and I think the problem is that none of this is regulated. I just want everyone to know that when it comes to medications, we have the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, but when it comes to personal care products, that is not regulated.
And why is that?
I don't know. I mean, I think we need to acknowledge that these things are all very political, right? And I think we need to acknowledge that a lot of research and a lot of regulations have to do with where the money flows. Like, you know, and I think that, as you mentioned, with the Crown Act, that was the first time that there was kind of like, okay, from these bigger brands like Dove, let's recognize that Black women are purchasing so much. You know, it's a $19 billion industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And let's try to hold ourselves to a different standard of accountability to this population. But before that, there just wasn't really any accountability, I think.
And Zina, are you considering switching up the products that you use in your salon? Like, how do you talk to your clients about this?
Education is key. You know, you come into my salon, education is key. We don't sell synthetic hair at all in my salon. We only sell 100% human hair. And even I went to the beauty supply. I don't know when the last time you went into beauty supply. I purposely went. Most of the stuff in there is that Kanekalon and the magic fingers. And I looked, no ingredients. Like you said, on anything. I went through all of the packages of the braiding hair. Nothing was listed. And that's the thing. We're like misinformed.
That's a sign right there. If there's no ingredients, it's probably bad ingredients.
Yes.
So they'd rather not list it. But you did mention the food FDA. I just feel like even they're letting a lot of things slide with us eating. So if that's bad, you can imagine.
The standards are also really different in America versus other countries like Europe and things like that, so we have to be mindful of that. But there's another group called the Environmental Working Group, and they have a database called Skin Deep. And so what you can do, if you can see the ingredients, you can type them in, you can type in the name of the product. In my practice, I'm always trying to opt for things that are greener and cleaner, right? Which is not necessarily the same as organic, and I can explain why that distinction is important. But I was looking up the things and saying, okay, good, has its nice green light. One, you know, they rank it from 1 to 10 in terms of harmfulness. But one of the things that they found, the Environmental Working Group, was that 4,000 products targeted towards Black women were either moderately harmful or highly harmful.
Wow. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, it just kind of, it's like, we can't have anything.
Win.
We can't win, right? Like it's striking because we know that Black women are not the only people who use hair extensions. I know you know this, Shellee, because you did Steven Tyler of Aerosmith's hair. You added some extensions to his. I don't think they were the Kanekalon, right?
No, it wasn't. It was human hair.
It was human hair. But it is interesting, right? That time and time again we're seeing these things come up with this demographic. Now, I am curious from a business standpoint, right? Knowing that, Zina, you said you only use human hair in your salon. Shellee, I wonder if this is a consideration for you too. How does it affect the pricing when consumers are coming to you for services? Is it just kind of a bullet you have to bite in raising your prices in that way?
In all honesty, a lot of times people come with their hair. We don't sell hair at Salon Monet. We do provide with extensions, human hair extensions. But yeah, we have to incorporate it in the price of the hair that we purchase. And a lot of the hair is like human, but I feel even human hair has a preserver in it as well that can be dangerous. Not as dangerous as this, but it's still pretty harmful for the hair and scalp and skin. Do you think
that years from now, right? Because it took a while to get to the point where we were having a study like this with these revelations. Do you think years from now we could see a similar study regarding human hair extensions?
Yeah, I hope it's brought out even more. Like, I talked about this probably 10, 15 years ago, but I think it's been 20 years that they've been putting this stuff in here. And now that it's affecting more women of color, and now that white women are getting into braided hair, Bo Derek look, I think it's really being brought to the forefront.
And to that point, Zina, I mean, do you think it's, because you mentioned the Crown Act, of course, this was a congressional bill that was looking at not discriminating against natural hairstyles in the workplace. And you and Shellee were alluding to how it has catapulted into now looking at the harmful effects of these ingredients in the hair. Is this maybe a situation to where what Shellee is saying, as we see more demographics being affected by this, like if we're seeing that maybe the extensions that white women wear in their hair are having some of these ingredients, that there will be more action taken?
I think with the extensions in general, everyone goes for the nicer hair, for the better quality. So this isn't going to stop it, but we have to help promote it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Help educate it. I feel like with the younger girls, you're going to get here because that's the look, but we can help them. We can educate them. With the demographics, I just think it's the communities too.
Yeah.
We can't like underestimate the impact of money and the fact
Oh, definitely,
that like
definitely.
there's so many of us who can't afford, like
Yes.
human hair is expensive. Like, you know,
Yeah,
even
it
if you're using
It
it
is.
for your extensions,
Yeah.
you know, let's talk about wigs,
Yeah.
all of those things. It's really, really expensive, and
But I
it
feel-
requires a different kind of maintenance
Yeah.
than the synthetic hair. And I think that in part is why some people are afraid of it. You know what I mean?
I feel like human hair is a little bit more pricier, but it's reusable, right? Even braided human hair, excuse me, you can reuse it, but this hair you can't. You just have to toss it
One
and
and-
throw it
it's-
away.
it's a one and done.
So I say to my clients, let's do the math. Do you want to purchase the human hair and you can use it? And we guarantee it for up to 6 months, you know, our human hair, versus, you know, other hair or synthetic hair or hair that you would buy at the beauty supply store.
And this would be, walk us through the reusing. I mean, would you wash that to take it out of, after
Yeah,
you do one
yeah.
install, wash it and put it back in?
Yeah, so we wash it, we cleanse it thoroughly.
Cleanse it, yes.
Yeah, yeah. We're really into that. And then we condition it as well, and then we dry it in the dryer, and then we put the hair back into the hair.
I think too with the hair, because I go on levels. If they're my young girls, I have a brand that I refer to them. I have a brand for my single mothers. I have a brand for my college girls. I have a brand for my prom girls.
Which brand
Yeah.
is it for
You know,
each group?
just each group, it depends on what you want. You know, and like for the women, I introduce them to my hair. I sell my own hair. It's the Purple Locks collection.
Yeah.
And just like you said, with my hair, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And when we install it, it's already cleansed, shampooed,
Yeah.
conditioned. When you take it out, we do the same thing. We have resealable package to keep it moist, and you could use it time and time again. But like I was talking to you earlier, I know with me coming up, I came up on the Kanekalon. That's what my mother could afford. That's what we could afford. And I'm going into the store years later, and it's still that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not saying like we could get better and we should get better. You have to get what you can afford. And it's trying times.
I want to say with the Kanekalon, one of the things that scares me is when you use it in little people,
I
right?
know.
Because we know that body surface area, they're actually absorbing more of these chemicals
Yes.
than we are as an adult.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, studies have shown, like, let's think about relaxers. I was 5 when I had my first relaxer. I was always tender-headed, and it was really difficult to do my hair, and I remember getting my first relaxer. Well, studies have shown if you get 2 relaxers, more than 2 relaxers a year, for 5 years, that increases your risk of uterine cancer by 50%.
Wow.
50%. This is a recent study out of BU. So, you know, the impact of these things is huge. And when we're talking about endocrine disruption, that's not just like cancer, that's also diabetes, that's obesity, and those things
then
in enough,
reproductive
right, and reproductive
systems.
infertility. We know that we have an epidemic of infertility,
Yeah.
and we have an epidemic of fibroids
Yeah.
in the Black community. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
is,
huge.
it is a huge thing,
Yeah.
right? And so no one has actually studied like what are the connections between these things, right? Is some of the hair care practices that we're using contributing to the health issues that we're facing? Even the hair oils I was seeing contain chemicals. We think this is natural. So I have this conversation every day about hair oils in clinic, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
you know, it's organic, it's a natural oil. And even those oils have chemicals that may not be good for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So is it about reading that ingredients list, or how do you reduce your risk, essentially?
I think one of the things that's really challenging here is that, as you mentioned, there are no ingredient lists,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I talk about this with skincare all the time. Like back in my day, you went to Clinique, you got your set, you wash your, you know, and you felt very special. But if you go to that counter and you say, can I see the ingredients? they have to dig really far back. Most of the women who are selling these things to you don't even know where to find the ingredients.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the challenges that we have are that there are no laws like we have with other things, right? Like food has to have a label. There are no laws that say, hey, these packages, these personal care products have to say what's in them. And I think that's why they've been getting away with this for so long, you know?
So how do you know if hair is a risk, or if it's irritating someone? What kind of things can show up in a client or in a patient to know that the hair is problematic?
A lot of times I say to like my clients, because you buy so many different times, I'm like, put it on your skin. You know, because the first irritation will tell you, but some people, they'll get their hair braided and they'll be like, it was burning, it'll itch it. And I was like, why would you keep it?
Yeah.
But they keep it because it looks good and they paid for it. But you have to pay the consequences after.
And people's hair will literally fall out after install.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing that we commonly do with this hair is you heat it up. So after you braid it, then you have the hot water and you dip it. And what we know about these ingredients is that they are made worse by heating. So
Yes.
benzene and the release of benzene is directly connected to heat.
Yeah.
Right? So the heating process, like even if you're thinking about it for the hairdresser and the hairdresser that's actually doing the treatment, they too are being exposed to these chemicals.
That's true.
Yeah.
Does that
And
worry
just
you?
think, just think, you're dipping the hot water, you're dipping the hair into a kettle and
yes,
to the
yes.
hot water. The steam,
Yeah.
styling
Freezing
is
it in,
here.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly,
And then
exactly.
the hair is wet and it's sitting on her scalp, the client's scalp,
Yes.
and it's slowly absorbing its
Yes.
way
Yes.
into
Yes.
her scalp.
Yes.
You know? So I get it. I understand how it works.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So with all of that, I'm thinking about the person, myself included, who's saying, okay, do I stop using this altogether, or is there an alternative for me? Maybe it's going to buy the extensions. Maybe it's, lessening my use of the synthetic hair extensions, or going to buy the human hair extensions, I should say. What advice would each of you give a client if they came to you with that question?
Well, first of all, getting back to the hair, I feel that these packages of hair needs to be labeled of what's inside. That's the only thing that's going to make it better for us to use, like if we know what's in it or how much is in it, because I think it was one brand, Sensational, had over 1 million of levels of it, and it was just so harsh. So getting back to your question, I'm sorry.
What advice would you give to a client who's trying to make a decision about whether to stop using this or not?
Yeah, so I love consultations. I would just consult with her and say, what's your goal with your hair? Let's try and work like your natural hair. Let's try and wean away from so much of the synthetic hair until like her own hair grows out. So I'm all about like goals, hair goals, you know. And I would just wean her away from it, like I've done 90% of my clients with relaxers. I'm like, let's talk about hair and hair care and what relaxers do to your hair. So, and I show them that their hair can do just as much without a relaxer as with a relaxer. So I would wean them away from it.
And Zina, what about you?
I like what you said about the ingredients. I would try to educate people on digging deeper, getting more education on what's in these chemicals. Like when I went to the hair store the other day and I seen it. So now anyone who comes to me, I'll be like, okay, but we always discuss what type of hair you're gonna use. Are you relaxed? Are you not relaxed? Which way do you wanna go? Because I'm the same as you. I'm all about hair care, you know that, in the hair journey of promoting your crown. So I would basically say, my thing's gonna be dig deeper. Dig deeper into this and use what you know is going to be beneficial and not what you see the next person using or the Instagram model or the actress. Use what's going to promote better for you, because even now with the food labels, check your hair products, check your extensions, dig deeper into the labels like you have to dig deeper into other things. So I think that's going to be my thing. Like tomorrow when I go into the salon, I've already been promoting today anyways. So I'm going to be like, you guys, these women were amazing, and this is what Shellee had, this is what Dr. Let's add it together and put a new spin on it to educate, because that's what I'm going to promote. Educating on checking the ingredients. You can look at that hair. And I'm like you, I have my ponytails and everything. You can look at the quality. It's not even hair. It's nothing but
made out of plastic,
it's fibers.
Exactly.
So you don't know.
And Dr. Ip, lastly.
We've talked a lot about ingredients, so I think what I can contribute are what ingredients you should be looking for that might be harmful. So one of the things that some people know about, but parabens and phthalates, okay, we found that in women with uterine cancer, parabens and phthalates are in the uterine lining. So that's something you can look for. You want to look for certain dyes that are called PPD, paraphenyldiene, and benzene. Like I said, I don't think you're going to see lead, right? But we can start to educate ourselves about the type of ingredients that are harmful and how to actually read those labels. When I read them, they mean something to me. And I think we need to start educating our community about what the labels actually mean.
Well, Dr. Imahiyerobo-Ip, Zina, and Shellee, thank you all so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.